Most people grow up believing they know exactly who they are. They trust their family, trust their memories, trust the little stories they were told as kids. But sometimes the truth doesn't show up in a loud way. Sometimes it hides quietly, waiting, watching, almost as if it wants to be discovered at the worst possible moment. And that's exactly what happened to Maya, a girl who spent her whole life feeling like she was being followed by something she could never name. She didn't know why she sometimes felt eyes on her in an empty room, or why her reflection in the mirror would make her pause, not because anything was wrong, but because something felt incomplete. Like she wasn't the only one looking back. It began on a calm afternoon, the kind where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. The sunlight was soft, the house was quiet, and Maya was doing the one thing she always did when she felt unsettled, cleaning her old storage boxes. She had grown up hearing that she was an only child. That her parents had tried for years to have a second baby, but life simply didn't work out that way. And she believed them because why wouldn't she? They were loving, protective, and always a little too careful with certain topics. But as she opened a dusty box in the corner of the attic, she found something that felt out of place. An old baby bracelet, small enough to fit a newborn's wrist, engraved with a name she had never heard in her life. Lena. Maya froze. She didn't know anyone named Lena. Her family didn't talk about Alina. And yet the bracelet was real, old, and clearly treasured once. She ran her thumb over the faded letters, feeling a strange pull in her chest, like this tiny object held a story she wasn't supposed to know. She tried to brush it off, telling herself it was probably a cousin's or a friend's or maybe just something her mom kept for sentimental reasons. But the more she tried to dismiss it, the heavier it felt in her hand. That night, she asked her mother about the bracelet. She didn't plan anything dramatic, just a casual question during dinner. But the moment the name Lena left her lips, her mother dropped her fork. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was enough to make Maya stop talking. Her mother's face didn't show anger. It showed something else, something like fear mixed with surprise, as if she never expected that name to be spoken again. And when she finally answered, her voice was too careful, too controlled. It's nothing important, she said. Just an old family item. But Maya knew that wasn't true. Her mother had never been a good liar, and Maya had never been good at ignoring things that didn't make sense. That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying that moment at the dinner table, the sudden shift in her mother's expression, the weird silence that followed. And while she lay awake, she kept hearing the same quiet thought repeating over and over. Who is Lena? By the next morning, the question had grown roots in her mind. She decided to visit her grandmother, the one person in the family who never sugarcoated anything. Her grandmother lived in a small house filled with old photos, old memories, and old habits. If anyone knew something, it would be her. But when Maya casually brought up the bracelet, something even stranger happened. Her grandmother didn't drop anything. She didn't panic. She simply stared at Maya for a moment like she was seeing her for the first time in years. Your parents didn't tell you? She whispered. That sentence alone made Maya's heartbeat pick up. It wasn't the words, it was the way her grandmother said them. Soft, heavy. Like she had been holding them for a long time. But before Maya could ask anything else, her grandmother shook her head and muttered, "It wasn't my place," and refused to speak about it again. By then, the mystery didn't feel small anymore. It felt like the truth was right there, sitting just out of reach, waiting for her to grab it. And the more her family tried to avoid it, the more she felt she needed to know. She spent the next few days digging through old drawers, searching through albums, looking for anything that connected her to that name. And that's when she noticed something odd. Certain pages in the family album had clearly been removed. Not torn, not damaged, just missing. Carefully removed. Why would someone remove photos? The signs were everywhere once she started noticing them. The half-answers. The nervous smiles. The way her father changed the subject the moment she brought up childhood stories. And every night, she felt that same strange sensation she'd grown up with, that she wasn't alone. That somewhere, somehow, someone was connected to her in a way she couldn't explain. And then something unexpected happened. While helping her father clean the basement, she found a small box tucked behind old paint cans. It wasn't marked, but it was locked. Her father wasn't paying attention, so she slipped it into her bag. Later that night, alone in her room, she managed to open it. Inside were papers, medical forms, birth certificates, ultrasound photos, all neatly folded. Her name was on one of the papers. But then she saw something else. A second name printed beside hers. Twin B. Her hands began to shake. She read the words again and again, trying to make sense of them. She wasn't an only child. She wasn't even a single baby. She was twin A, which meant there had been a twin B. which meant Lena wasn't just a random name. Lena was her sister. Her twin sister. But if she had a twin, where was she? What happened? Why had nobody ever told her? And why did it feel like her family had spent years trying to erase someone who should have been part of her life? Before she could even process what she had discovered, she noticed one last paper at the bottom of the box. It wasn't official, just a small handwritten note. But the moment she read it, a chill ran through her whole body. She can never know what the other one became. Those words changed everything. They didn't explain the truth, but they hinted at something bigger, something her family had been trying to protect her from, or protect themselves from. And suddenly, all the strange moments, all the unexplained feelings, all the quiet looks from her parents made sense. Her twin hadn't disappeared. Her twin was out there. And whatever her twin had become, her family hoped Maya would never find out. But fate had already started pulling them back together. And soon, Maya would learn the truth that would change everything. The snake she kept dreaming about, the one that always felt familiar, the one that always watched her from the dark, wasn't just a symbol. It wasn't just fear. It was her twin. And she was closer than Maya ever imagined. Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay still on her bed with the papers spread out beside her, the soft glow of her lamp turning everything into a quiet blur. Her heart felt heavy, as if it couldn't decide whether to beat fast from fear or slow down from confusion. She kept staring at the handwritten note, the one line she wished she could unread. It felt like it wasn't just written for anyone, it was written for her, like someone knew she would one day find it. And the longer she looked at it, the clearer one thought became. Her family had been hiding something much bigger than a simple secret. By morning the house felt different. Her mother hummed quietly in the kitchen, her father pretended to read the newspaper, but Maya watched them both closely. They avoided her eyes, speaking softer than usual, using shorter sentences as if they sensed the shift in the air. She wanted to confront them right then, show them the papers, ask them why they had kept something this important from her. But something held her back. Maybe it was fear of the truth. Maybe it was the strange feeling that whatever they told her wouldn't match what she already sensed inside. She carried the box of documents back to her room and hid it behind her dresser. Just knowing it was there made her feel like she had stepped into a story she didn't choose but still had to follow. Every thought circled around the same unanswered questions. Why had Lena been hidden from her? What did the note mean by what the other one became? Did her parents think she wasn't ready to hear the truth? Or was the truth something even they were afraid of? Over the next few days she paid attention to things she used to ignore. The way her father locked his office door more carefully. The way her mother double-checked the windows every night. Even the family dog seemed uneasy, staying unusually close to Maya as if she needed protection from something unseen. Energy in the house felt heavier, like invisible threads were pulling everyone tighter and tighter, ready to snap. That week, Maya decided she needed answers from someone who wasn't directly involved. Someone who might know things unintentionally. She reached out to her childhood neighbor, Mrs. Avery, a woman who had lived next door since before Maya was born. She had always been talkative, always willing to share stories about the neighborhood, always the person who somehow knew everything without trying. Maya walked over one evening under the excuse of bringing her homemade cookies. Mrs. Avery welcomed her with her usual warm smile, but the moment Maya mentioned the name Lena, that smile faded ever so slightly. It wasn't as dramatic as her mother's reaction, but it wasn't normal either. It was the kind of look someone gives when they're trying to remember if they're allowed to say something. Lena, Mrs. Avery repeated, tapping her fingers gently on the table. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Maya leaned forward, trying to keep her expression relaxed. So she was real? Mrs. Avery hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes, she was. But your parents, they went through a lot back then. A lot of people stopped talking about it out of respect. Everyone assumed it was better that way. Better for who? Maya asked quietly. Mrs. Avery sighed. Some truths don't disappear just because people avoid them. That sentence lingered in the air, heavy and confusing. Maya wanted to push further, but before she could ask anything else, Mrs. Avery gently changed the topic, almost as if she realized she had already said too much. Maya left with even more questions, but at least now she had confirmation. Lena wasn't just a name on a bracelet. She had existed. And not in a distant, forgotten story, she had been part of Maya's life in a way nobody wanted to admit. That night the dreams returned. They weren't nightmares, but they didn't feel peaceful either. Maya found herself standing in a dim forest, the air warm and oddly calm. Everything around her felt familiar even though she had never seen it in real life. She could hear soft rustling, not frightening, just steady, like something moving gently around her. And then she saw it, the same snake she had dreamed about since she was young. Not large, not dangerous looking, just watching her with eyes that held something almost human. Every time she stepped forward, the snake slid a little closer, never threatening, just present. Like it recognized her. She woke up with that same strange pull in her chest, the one she couldn't explain. She didn't tell anyone about the dream. She never had. Because even before knowing the truth, she always felt the dream wasn't just a dream. It was something else. A memory. A message. A connection she couldn't understand yet. The next day she found herself drawn to the attic again. She didn't know what she was looking for, but something inside her said the answers were there. The attic was dusty, quiet, and filled with boxes that held years of untouched stories. She carefully opened the boxes she hadn't checked before, moving slowly, afraid that rushing would cause her to miss something important. In a box labeled Old Letters, she found a stack of envelopes tied with a faded ribbon. Most were normal family letters, holiday greetings, birthday notes, things that felt ordinary. But at the bottom of the pile she found one envelope without a stamp, without a date, and without a name. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No explanation, no signature. Just a short sentence written in the same handwriting as the note in the locked box. She will come when she's ready. Maya read it over and over, trying to understand who this she referred to. Her mother? A relative? Someone else entirely? But deep down, her instincts whispered the answer she didn't want to admit. It wasn't about her mother. It wasn't about anyone in the house. It was about Lena. The words felt less like a warning and more like a truth waiting to unfold. But ready for what? Ready to meet Maya? Ready to return? Ready to reveal whatever her parents had hidden? The days that followed made everything even stranger. Small things kept happening. Objects shifted slightly from where she left them, lights flickering at odd times, her phone buzzing with no notifications. Even the air in her room sometimes carried a faint scent she couldn't identify, a warm, earthy smell that reminded her of the dream forest. One afternoon, while walking home from the library, she sensed someone behind her. Not in a frightening way, just a soft awareness like someone was matching her steps from a distance. She turned, but the street was empty. The wind was calm, the trees quiet, everything normal. Still, the feeling didn't leave. It stayed with her until she reached her front door, settling like a quiet whisper in the back of her mind. She started journaling everything, every detail, every dream, every moment that felt off. The more she wrote, the clearer the pattern appeared. Whatever was happening wasn't random. It felt connected. It felt like pieces of a puzzle she was only beginning to see. One evening, while sitting in her room with the journal open beside her, Maya looked at her reflection in the mirror. Something about her own face felt unfamiliar, not because it had changed but because she noticed how often she searched her reflection for signs of someone else. Someone who looked like her. Someone who was her. She slowly placed her hand on the mirror's surface, almost expecting something to happen, though she didn't know what. Nothing changed physically, but the feeling inside her changed. She could almost sense someone on the other side, someone who had been waiting quietly, patiently. And then it hit her, not as fear but as truth. Lena wasn't gone. She wasn't lost. She hadn't disappeared. She was simply waiting for Maya to be ready. And Maya realized she was getting closer to a moment she couldn't avoid, a moment where she would have to face the sister she never knew, the twin she had always felt, and the truth her family hoped she would never uncover. But she didn't know yet, she had only touched the surface. Days passed, but the air around Maya kept getting heavier, like the truth was slowly pressing itself closer to her life. She tried to keep herself busy, school, errands, anything that felt normal, but even the normal things started feeling different. People looked at her a second longer than usual. Friends asked if she was okay. Teachers noticed she seemed distracted. But Maya couldn't tell anyone what she was feeling, because she didn't fully understand it herself. Every time she tried to focus on something else, her thoughts drifted back to the papers she discovered, the name Lena, and the strange sense that someone was connected to her even if she had never seen them. She felt it in the quiet moments, especially when she was alone. Not fear, just presence. Like a shadow moving beside her life, waiting for the right moment to step into the light. One afternoon, Maya decided she needed to understand the medical papers more clearly. She wasn't a doctor, and the documents used phrases she didn't recognize. After debating it for hours, she went to the local clinic, not to ask about Lena directly but to casually ask about the meaning of certain terms. She brought photocopies, not the originals, to avoid raising suspicion. The nurse who helped her was kind but observant. She explained the terms carefully, not knowing these papers were tied to something deeper. But at one point she paused, pointing to a section on the page. "This part usually means the twins were separated shortly after birth," she said. "Different medical paths. Different notes." Maya's breath caught. She tried to stay calm. "Separated how?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. The nurse shrugged softly. "It depends on the situation. Sometimes for health reasons. Sometimes for privacy. Sometimes families have personal choices." Personal choices. The word stuck with her. What kind of personal choice would make a family hide an entire child? Why would they keep one twin and erase the other from every photo, every conversation, every memory? Walking home, Maya felt the wind shift, cool and gentle, yet strangely comforting. For a moment she had the feeling she wasn't walking alone again. She didn't turn around this time. She just kept moving, letting the feeling settle over her like a warm coat. She didn't know whether it was Lena or her own imagination, but it didn't feel threatening. If anything, it felt like someone walking beside her because she finally needed them to. That evening, a new chapter in the mystery opened unexpectedly. Her grandmother called, asking Maya to visit. The tone in her voice wasn't casual. It was firm, almost urgent, but still warm. Maya went immediately, sensing that her grandmother had reached a point where staying silent wasn't possible anymore. As soon as Maya stepped inside, her grandmother closed the curtains. Not in a dramatic way but in a protective one. She made tea, handed Maya a cup, then sat across from her with tired eyes that held too many secrets. "I knew this day would come," her grandmother said softly. "I just hoped it would come differently." Maya waited, heart pounding but steady. "You were never supposed to feel alone," her grandmother continued. "Your parents thought hiding things would save everyone pain. But sometimes hiding truth only creates more of it." Maya held her breath. "So Lena, she was real?" "Very real," her grandmother whispered. "And deeply connected to you. More than you understand." Before Maya could ask anything more, her grandmother pressed her lips together as if she was fighting with herself. "I can't say everything. It isn't my story to tell. But I can say this, there are bonds that don't break just because people try to erase them. Some connections are stronger than any decision adults make." That sentence filled Maya with both comfort and fear. Comfort because it meant Lena wasn't forgotten by everyone. Fear because it meant the truth was much bigger than a missing child. Maya wanted to ask where Lena was now, or why nobody mentioned her, or why she had been completely removed from their lives. But her grandmother gently shook her head. "Not yet," she murmured. "The truth reveals itself when the heart is ready." It was the same message as the mysterious note, "She will come when she's ready." Maya left her grandmother's house feeling both closer to the truth and farther from real answers. The world outside seemed quieter than usual, like everything was pausing for her to catch up. Back in her room, she searched her face in the mirror again. She tried imagining what Lena might look like. Would she have the same eyes? The same smile? The same quiet instincts that Maya always had? Or had her life taken a completely different shape? Raised by someone else, taught different beliefs, living a reality Maya couldn't even imagine? The question didn't leave her mind. If they were identical twins, would they feel the same things at the same time? Is that why Maya always sensed someone near her? Meanwhile, small changes kept happening in the house. Her father seemed more distant than usual, spending late nights in his office. Her mother looked tired, as if she was carrying a worry she couldn't talk about. Even the family photos on the walls felt strange, balanced, neat, perfect, maybe too perfect. Sometimes Maya wondered if somewhere in one of the removed photos, a child stood beside her, smiling before someone decided she shouldn't be there anymore. One night, Maya overheard her parents talking in low voices. She didn't try to eavesdrop, but the moment she heard her name and the tone behind it, she froze in place. "She's getting too close," her mother whispered. "She was always going to find out," her father replied quietly. "But we can't let everything come out at once." "Do you think she knows about the connection?" her mother asked. Her father sighed. "She feels it. You can't hide that kind of bond." Maya's stomach twisted. Not from fear, more like realization. Her own parents knew she felt something. They were aware of her connection to Lena long before she understood it herself. She stepped away from the hallway before they could sense her listening. Back in her room, she tried to calm her thoughts. Everything was spiraling, secrets, whispers, hidden truths. But she also felt oddly grounded, like she was finally walking towards something she was meant to face. Another subplot quietly unfolded at school. Her friend Jordan, who had known her since childhood, noticed something different about her. One afternoon he asked if she wanted to hang out like they used to, just walk around the park and talk. She agreed, needing a break from the heavy atmosphere at home. As they walked, Jordan casually mentioned something surprising. "I remember when you were little," he said, kicking a pebble. "You used to talk to someone imaginary. You said she looked just like you." Maya stopped. "What? I don't remember that." Jordan nodded. "Yeah. You said her name was something like Lila, or Lena. I thought it was just a kid thing." Goosebumps rose on Maya's arms. So even before she could read or understand anything, she sensed someone beside her. Maybe children feel things adults ignore. That revelation opened another layer to the story. If she had been connected to Lena since childhood, then Lena might have been reaching out long before Maya had the words to understand it. That night, the dream returned again, clearer than ever. The forest was brighter. The snake was closer. And this time, Maya didn't just see the snake watching her. She saw a figure in the distance standing still. Someone with her height, her posture, her presence. But before Maya could walk closer, she woke up with a gasp, heart racing, breath unsteady. She wasn't alone in this story. She never had been. And something, or someone, was slowly stepping out of the shadows, preparing to enter her life in a way she wasn't ready for, but couldn't stop. The truth was moving toward her. And soon she would have no choice but to face it. The days that followed felt like the world was slowly tightening around Maya, pulling her towards something she couldn't avoid even if she wanted to. Every moment felt sharper, sounds seemed louder, shadows felt deeper, and even her own heartbeat seemed to echo inside her chest, as if reminding her she was getting closer to a truth she had spent her entire life walking beside without knowing. She kept dreaming about the forest. Each night it grew more vivid, the colors brighter, the path clearer. And every time she stepped deeper into it, the figure stood a little closer. Not running toward her, not hiding, just waiting. And in those dreams, Maya felt something that scared her more than anything else: familiarity. She didn't know the figure, yet she felt like she always had. One morning, she woke with the strange certainty that the dreams weren't just dreams anymore. They felt like messages, like someone was calling her. Not with words, but through instinct, through a connection too strong to ignore. At school, she found herself drifting away from conversations, zoning out in the middle of lectures, staring out windows without realizing it. Her teachers noticed. Her friends noticed. But Jordan was the only one who dared to ask. "Hey," he said gently one afternoon, "you're not here, it's like your mind is somewhere else." Maya hesitated before answering. "It feels like something is waiting for me. I don't know what. I don't know where. But it's close." Jordan studied her face, worry softening his eyes. "Do you want me to go with you? Wherever this leads." The offer warmed her heart, but she knew some journeys weren't meant to be shared. "I think this is something I have to face alone," she whispered. That same evening when she arrived home, she noticed something different the moment she stepped inside. The house was too quiet. Not the peaceful kind, more like the stillness before a storm. Her parents were sitting at the dining table, their expressions tight and serious. They had clearly been waiting for her. Her mother gestured for her to sit. "We need to talk," she said softly. Maya sat across from them, her palms sweating, her heartbeat steady but heavy. Her father exhaled slowly. "We know you've been looking into things we hoped you would never have to carry." Maya swallowed. "You mean Lena?" The room shifted at the sound of the name. Her parents exchanged a long, heavy look. Her mother's voice trembled slightly. "We didn't hide her out of shame. We hid her out of fear." "Fear of what?" Maya asked. Her father's jaw tightened. "Fear of what the two of you becoming connected again would mean. Fear of what it could awaken." Those words sent a chill down her spine. "Awaken what?" she whispered. Her mother looked away, tears forming in her eyes, but she didn't answer. Instead, she reached into a drawer and pulled out a small wooden box, similar to the one Maya had found earlier, but older, more worn. "We kept this locked for a reason," her father said. "But you've already stepped too close to the truth. Keeping it from you now would only make things worse." They pushed the box toward her. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were old photographs, grainy, faded, but powerful. Her breath caught as she saw two babies lying side by side, identical except for the small bracelet on one wrist. Lena. Even as newborns, Maya could feel the connection through the photo. The way their hands naturally reached toward each other. The peacefulness in their expressions. But then she found another photo, taken months later. Maya recognized herself instantly. The other baby was gone. And the empty space next to her made her chest ache. Someone had deliberately removed the twin from the image before it was added to the family album. Maya looked up, her voice barely a whisper. "Where is she?" Her father closed his eyes. We don't know anymore. Her mother added, we tried to find her. For years. But every time we got close, something happened. Something that made us think she was different now. Not dangerous. Just changed. Maya's mind raced. Changed how? Changed into what? Before she could ask, her father leaned forward. Maya, you need to understand something. Twins share a bond. Identical twins share something deeper. But you and Lena, your connection is beyond anything we've seen. You always felt her presence even when you didn't know why. Maya nodded slowly, her throat tight. I felt it all my life. Her mother whispered, and she's felt you too. The room fell into a heavy silence. Her father continued, voice low, but the closer you get to her, the more your lives will merge. The more your instincts will align. That's why the dreams are getting stronger. She's reaching out. Maya felt a sudden pressure in her chest, not painful, just intense. Like her heart recognized something before her mind did. Then why hide her? Maya asked, her voice shaking. Why not tell me everything from the beginning? Her father looked down. Because we didn't know if finding each other would bring you peace, or pull you into something you couldn't return from. Before Maya could answer, there was a soft knock at the door. Her parents froze. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. But it carried a weight that made the air shift. Her mother whispered, no, it's too soon. Her father stood slowly, hesitation in every step. Maya watched, her breath caught in her throat as he moved toward the door. She could hear nothing except her own heartbeat, steady and heavy. When her father opened the door, no one was standing there. Just a small envelope on the welcome mat. He picked it up, examined it, and slowly closed the door behind him. His hand trembled as he handed it to Maya. Her name was written on it. Only her name. Her parents watched with dread as she opened it. Inside was a single slip of paper. Just like the others. But this one held only 3 words. Soon. I'm close. Maya's lungs tightened. The handwriting was familiar, almost identical to hers. The curves, the pressure, the style. Her mother covered her mouth. It's her, she whispered. She's reaching out more directly now. Her father stepped back as if overwhelmed by the moment. She knows you're searching, he said. She knows you're ready. Maya stared at the note, her hands trembling, her mind spinning. She felt a strange mixture of fear and recognition, like her heart was pulling her toward something she couldn't see yet. That night, her dream returned again, but this time it wasn't just a dream. The forest was clearer, warmer, alive with quiet energy. And the figure was no longer in the distance. She stood only a few steps away now, her silhouette outlined by soft light. Maya tried to move closer, but her feet felt frozen in place. She could only watch as the figure lifted her head slowly, as if sensing Maya's presence more strongly than ever. And then, for the first time, the figure took a step toward her. Maya woke up with a jolt, sitting straight up in bed, her heart racing. The scent of the forest lingered in her room, warm, earthy, real. She wasn't imagining this anymore. Something was happening. Something that had been building for years. Something she couldn't stop even if she wanted to. And as the night settled around her, Maya realized she was standing at the edge of the moment her entire life had been leading to. Lena was close. Closer than she had ever been. The shock of seeing that old woman in the hallway stayed with Lena long after her door slammed shut. She kept replaying it in her mind, those unfocused eyes, the trembling voice, the way her words felt less like confusion and more like a warning whispered through someone else's mouth. Even after Lena had calmed Maya down and walked her back to her room, the eerie feeling refused to leave her chest. It clung to her like a shadow, something she couldn't shake no matter how many times she tried to convince herself it was nothing. But deep down she knew it wasn't nothing. It was part of something bigger, something she wasn't ready to understand. The next morning the house felt heavier than usual. Maya avoided eye contact, moving slowly, like she was trying to disappear inside her own thoughts. Lena pretended to stay busy, but she was watching Maya closely. She noticed tiny things, how Maya kept rubbing her left wrist, how her shoulders stiffened every time she passed the mirror in the hallway, how she seemed to flinch at sounds Lena didn't even hear. It was like Maya was carrying a secret inside her, one she didn't know how to put into words. Lena wanted to ask, but she had learned the hard way that pushing Maya never worked. So she tried the quiet approach. She made breakfast, set the table, kept her tone soft and casual. Still, Maya barely touched her food. She just sat there staring at the wooden grain of the table, tracing invisible shapes with her finger, as if she was following a pattern only she could see. Finally, she whispered, "Lena, do you ever get the feeling someone else is inside you? Like, watching you from the back of your mind?" Lena's heart stalled for a moment. The question itself wasn't what scared her, it was the tone. It sounded like someone who wasn't entirely sure their thoughts belonged to them. "I think everyone feels disconnected sometimes," Lena answered carefully, trying to keep her voice calm. "But if something feels off, you can tell me. You know that, right?" But Maya didn't look up. Instead, she pressed her hand against her wrist again, the fabric of her sleeve sliding back just a little. Lena's breath hitched when she saw the faint shape underneath, thin, almost spiral-like, stretched across the skin like a marking she didn't remember ever being there. Before Lena could ask anything, Maya pulled her sleeve all the way down, hiding it quickly. "It's nothing," she muttered. "I'm just being weird." But it wasn't nothing. Lena knew that. And the way Maya shut down the conversation told her something was changing, something Maya didn't know how to control. Later that day, Lena decided to do her own research. She returned to the dusty box in the attic, the one filled with hospital papers, old photos, and documents from the years she and Maya had spent in foster care. Most of it was messy, incomplete, and in some places almost impossible to read. But she wasn't looking for paperwork this time. She was looking for clues about their past. Anything. That was when she found it. A thin stack of yellowed papers taped together. On the front was a handwritten note, confidential, subject behavior ongoing. Inside were short reports, dated years apart, written by different caseworkers and doctors. But all of them described something similar: strange episodes, unpredictable behavior, and something labeled only as mirror response anomalies. Lena felt her stomach twist as she read through them. Some mentioned Maya specifically. Some mentioned a possible genetic link. And one page, the last one, had a single sentence that made her hands tremble. "Recommend separating twins until further observation confirms stabilization." Twins. The word hit her like someone had pulled the ground out from under her. She and Maya had never been told anything about being twins. They didn't share the same last name on their documents. They didn't have the same birthday. The system had always referred to them as siblings, nothing more. But the sentence was there, clear as day. Twins. Lena sat back, trying to make sense of it. Why would anyone hide that? Why separate them if they were twins? And what did mirror response anomalies even mean? She didn't get long to think about it. Because that night, the second twist surfaced, quiet, unexpected, and terrifying. Lena woke to the soft sound of movement in the hallway. She thought it was Maya having another restless night. But when she stepped outside her room, she froze. Maya was standing completely still in the dark, facing the large mirror at the end of the hall. Her body wasn't moving, but her reflection was. The reflection's head turned first, slowly, unnaturally, as if testing the limits of the glass. Then it leaned forward, its expression sharper, almost aware. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She rubbed her eyes, certain she was imagining it. But when she looked again, the reflection was still wrong, still turned toward her while Maya hadn't moved an inch. "Maya?" Lena whispered. Her sister didn't answer. The reflection suddenly straightened, tilting its head with an expression that didn't belong to Maya at all, calm, knowing, almost amused. Then, as if acknowledging Lena's presence, it smiled. Lena stumbled backward, her chest tight. She blinked hard, panic rising, and when she looked again, everything was normal. Maya's reflection matched her perfectly. There was no smile, no strange movement, just Maya staring blankly at her own face. But Maya didn't seem to realize anything had happened. The next morning, Lena tried to keep things normal. But normal didn't exist anymore. Not after last night. Every time she saw Maya walk past a mirror, Lena couldn't help but watch, waiting to see if the reflection would slip again. And then she noticed something she hadn't before. Every time Maya's reflection moved, even normally, there was a tiny delay. Barely half a second. Almost invisible. But once Lena saw it, she couldn't unsee it. Something was wrong with Maya's reflection. Later that evening, Maya finally asked, "Why do you keep staring at me like that?" Lena didn't know how to answer. She didn't want to scare her, but she couldn't lie either. She just said, "Maya, has anything strange been happening to you? Like, in the mirror?" Maya hesitated. And in that hesitation, Lena saw the truth. She did know something. She had known for a while. Maya finally whispered, "Lena, what if the person in the mirror isn't me? What if she's someone else trying to come through?" Her voice cracked. "And what if she's the reason we were separated?" Before Lena could respond, something sharp echoed from downstairs, a sound like glass shifting or something dragging across the floor. Both of them froze. Because they knew they weren't alone in the house anymore. Lena and Maya stood frozen at the top of the staircase, listening to the soft dragging sound echo through the house. It wasn't loud, but it carried a strange weight, like something deliberate, something alive, was moving across the floor below. Lena's breath shook as she held Maya's hand and quietly guided her back a few steps. The house felt tighter than ever, the air thick with a warning neither of them could ignore anymore. For a moment the sound stopped. The silence felt even worse. Lena knew they couldn't stand there waiting for something to reveal itself on its own terms. She had spent too long letting fear pile up between them, too long avoiding the truth of who they were. If there was ever a moment to face everything, it was now. So she squeezed Maya's hand and whispered, "Stay behind me. We go together." They moved down the stairs slowly, each step creaking softly under their feet. Maya clung to Lena's sleeve, trying to be brave even though her breath trembled. The closer they got to the living room, the colder the air became. Not a winter cold, something else. Something that felt like standing too close to an open doorway in the middle of the night. When they reached the bottom step, Lena paused. The living room looked normal at first glance. Nothing out of place. Nothing moved. But the tall mirror standing against the far wall, an old piece they'd inherited with the house, seemed different. Instead of reflecting the room's soft light, it looked dim, almost clouded over, like fog had gathered behind the glass instead of in front of it. Maya's grip tightened. "Lena," she whispered, "I think it's her." Lena felt a chill slide up her spine, but she forced herself to walk closer. She'd seen the reflection move before. She'd seen the slight delays. She'd seen the smile that wasn't Maya's. She had spent nights trying to deny it, hoping it was stress or exhaustion. But now that the fog inside the mirror was shifting in slow, unnatural swirls, there was no denying it anymore. As they approached, the mirror flickered, not like light, but like the surface itself rippled for a moment. Maya gasped softly. Lena stepped in front of her, but the moment she reached out to touch the frame, the glass cleared completely. And there it was. Not Maya. Not even a distorted version of her. The girl in the reflection looked exactly like Maya, but the expression was wrong. Too calm. Too controlled. Her eyes had a sharpness that didn't belong to Maya. She stood tall, confident, with a posture that felt like she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. For a long moment, none of them moved. Then the reflection lifted her hand, and placed it flat against the inside of the mirror. The glass shimmered under her touch. Maya whispered, "She's real." Lena swallowed hard. Or she's been trying to be. The reflection's mouth curved into the same chilling smile Lena had seen before. The fog behind her began to pulse, like a heartbeat, and suddenly Lena understood. This wasn't just a strange mirror trick or a hallucination. This girl was connected to Maya in a way that went beyond anything physical. Something in their past, something hidden from them, had created this link. Lena stepped forward, trying to keep her voice steady. "What do you want from her?" The reflection tilted her head, the smile fading. For the first time her expression softened, not malicious, not threatening. Just sad. She lifted her hand again and pointed directly at Maya. Not accusingly, more like she was asking for recognition. Maya took a small step forward. "Lena, I don't think she's trying to hurt us." Lena wanted to argue, but she heard something in Maya's voice, a quiet certainty she hadn't heard in years. So she let Maya step closer. The reflection mirrored her movement immediately, but this time it felt more like an invitation than a trap. Maya reached out and pressed her fingertips against the cold surface. The fog behind the reflection shifted, rising like a soft glow around the other girl. And then Maya spoke almost by instinct. "Is that why they separated us? Because you were inside me?" The reflection nodded. The room seemed to vibrate with understanding. Pieces that had never made sense suddenly fit together. The strange foster reports, the separation, the behavior notes, the mirror anomalies, the sense that Maya was never completely alone in her own mind. Lena felt her throat tighten as she realized the truth. Maya's twin wasn't missing. She had never lived outside of Maya at all. She existed in the space between them. In the glass. In the shadows of their mind. A twin never given a name, never given a chance, never allowed to exist except as a silent reflection. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "She wasn't a monster," she whispered. "She was trapped." The reflection lifted her hand again, pressing her palm flat against Maya's. And suddenly the glow around her grew brighter. The fog in the mirror swirled faster. The entire surface rippled as if something was shifting inside it. Lena panicked. Maya stepped back. "I can't," Maya whispered. "She's showing me something." Lena reached for her, but before she could pull Maya away, a rush of images filled the mirror. Flashes of two infants identical lying side by side. Doctors rushing. Machines beeping. A decision made too quickly, too quietly. And then, darkness. A darkness that swallowed one child but left her consciousness wandering, looking for the closest thing it could attach to. Maya. The glow intensified, the mirror shaking. Lena grabbed Maya's shoulders, trying to steady her. Maya, it's too much. Stop. But Maya didn't pull away. She stared into the reflection with a strange calm, tears streaming down her face. Lena. I think she wants to leave. Not to hurt us. Just to stop being trapped. The reflection nodded again. And then, slowly the glow began to dim, not violently, not frighteningly. More like someone settling into peace. The mirror's fog softened until it was almost clear. Maya took a deep breath and stepped back on her own. The reflection no longer moved separately. No more delays. No more strange expressions. It was simply Maya again, normal, steady, calm. Lena waited, breath held, expecting another flicker. Another smile. Another sign of the trapped twin. But the mirror stayed still. It was over. Or so they thought. Days later, things slowly returned to routine. Maya slept better. The mirror behaved normally. The strange heaviness in the house faded. Everything felt healed. Like the conflict had settled into its final form. But one morning, while Lena was brushing her teeth, she caught a glimpse of Maya walking past the bathroom door in the reflection. Lena smiled, relieved, until she realized Maya wasn't actually there. The hallway behind her was empty. Lena froze. The reflection paused, then slowly turned its head toward her. And smiled. A different smile. Not Maya's. Not the trapped twins. A third one. Someone Lena had never seen before. Someone new. And that was when Lena understood. The mirror hadn't let go. It had only opened the door wider. For a long moment, Lena couldn't move. She stood in the doorway with her toothbrush still in hand, staring into the mirror as the unfamiliar reflection held its soft, unsettling smile. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself not to panic. After everything they had gone through with Maya's trapped twin, she refused to jump straight into fear. She took a slow breath and stepped closer, watching carefully as the reflection stayed still. The hallway behind her remained empty. There were no footsteps, no shadows, no whispers. Just silence. Lena leaned in, studying the reflection's face. It wasn't Maya. It wasn't the twin. The features were familiar yet different, like seeing a relative she had never met, a resemblance without recognition. For a second, Lena wondered if her mind was playing tricks on her. It had been a long few weeks. Maybe she was overtired. But then the reflection blinked. Lena tensed. She lifted her hand, waving it in front of the glass. The reflection didn't mimic her. It simply watched her with a calm curiosity, as if waiting for her to ask the right question. She swallowed hard. "I'm not afraid of you," she whispered, even though she wasn't fully sure if that was true. "But I need to know who you are." The reflection's smile softened. And slowly, gently, it faded out, like mist dissolving in sunlight. In a blink, the mirror returned to normal. Her own reflection stared back at her, wide-eyed and shaken but real. Lena stepped back, gripping the edge of the sink. It wasn't the same malicious twist she had felt before. This time there was no threat, no heaviness in the air. Instead she felt something light. Almost like a lingering presence trying to say goodbye. She returned to her room and found Maya sitting cross-legged on the bed, sketching quietly in her notebook. She looked peaceful, more peaceful than she had been in years. Lena sat beside her, unsure of how to begin. Maya looked up. "You okay? You look like you saw something." Lena hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Not something. Someone." Maya didn't flinch. Instead, she set her pencil down and listened. Lena explained everything she had seen in the mirror, the unfamiliar reflection, the calm smile, the feeling of a presence that wasn't threatening. Maya absorbed the story with a strange, thoughtful look. After a moment she whispered, "I think, maybe she wasn't here to stay. Maybe she was just passing through now that everything is open." Lena frowned. "What do you mean?" Maya shrugged lightly, tracing the cover of her notebook. "You remember how the doctors wrote that we had mirror response anomalies? Maybe it wasn't just the two of us. Maybe there were echoes of other people who were connected to us. Maybe when the mirror opened they all felt it." Lena thought about it. It sounded strange, but nothing about their story had been ordinary. And somehow, it didn't scare her the way it once would have. Instead, she felt something close to acceptance. The feeling of understanding a mystery that had followed them their whole lives. For the first time, the unknown didn't feel dangerous. It just felt different. The next days were quiet and gentle. Maya continued healing, emotionally and mentally. She started talking more, sleeping better, and even joining Lena for small walks around the neighborhood. The mirror stayed normal, reflecting only what it was supposed to reflect. No flickers. No strange delays. No unfamiliar faces. One afternoon, Maya asked if they could visit the clinic that had once held their records. Lena didn't expect answers, but she agreed. The receptionist guided them to an older file room where boxes of archived documents were kept. They searched through worn folders, photocopies, and medical notes. Most of it repeated what they already knew: health reports, behavior logs, recommendations from specialists. But near the bottom of a dusty box, Lena found a sealed envelope, addressed simply with 2 words: "For guardians only." She hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single sheet. It explained everything. The twins had been born during a complicated delivery. One child struggled to breathe. Doctors worked frantically to save her, but her body didn't respond. Yet her brain activity did something they had never seen before. It spiked, sharply, impossibly, at the exact moment the other twin cried out for the first time. In their confusion, the staff documented the event as an unexplained neurological transfer. The hospital had believed the consciousness of one twin had fused with the other. Out of fear and uncertainty, they separated them, hoping the surviving child would stabilize without interference. Maya read the page with trembling fingers. So she wasn't a ghost. Or a spirit. She was me. Or part of me. Or something between us. Lena wrapped an arm around her. She wasn't gone. She was living somewhere no one could understand. Maya nodded quietly, wiping her eyes. The emotion lingering behind her smile wasn't fear, it was relief. Relief that she hadn't imagined everything. Relief that her twin hadn't been suffering alone. Relief that she hadn't been crazy. As they walked out of the clinic, the weight of years seemed to fall off Maya's shoulders. She looked lighter, freer than she had ever been. That night, Lena stood once more in front of the big mirror in the hallway. For the first time, she didn't feel the need to watch for strange movements or separate reflections. She just looked at herself, breathing slowly, letting the quiet of the house surround her. "Thank you," she whispered softly. She didn't know who exactly she was thanking, but she knew the words were needed. For the lost twin, for the reflection that had once watched them, for the unknown presence that had visited her. Maybe even for herself. For surviving, for understanding, for staying strong through every moment of fear. Her reflection looked back at her with calm eyes, her own eyes. Just her. But as she turned to leave, a faint warmth brushed against her shoulder. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to. It didn't feel like a warning. It didn't feel like danger. It felt like a goodbye. Maya walked up beside her, smiling softly. "She's really gone, isn't she?" Lena nodded. "Yeah, she is." Together, they stepped away from the mirror, finally closing the chapter that had shaped their entire lives. The house felt peaceful again, like it had exhaled a breath it had been holding for years. There were no more flickers of fear. No more echoes in the glass. Just the quiet comfort of knowing the truth. Before they headed to bed, Maya whispered, "Do you think she's okay now?" "Wherever she is." Lena thought for a moment. "I think she finally found a place to rest. And I think she wanted us to know we weren't alone." Maya smiled, her voice soft. "Then, maybe that's enough." And it was. Days turned into weeks and the mirror stayed still. The house remained warm and quiet. Lena and Maya lived their lives without the shadow of unanswered questions. They cooked together, laughed more often, and talked openly about the past instead of hiding from it. Their bond grew stronger, something built through struggle, fear, love, and truth. One evening as the sun set, Maya closed the curtains and looked at Lena with a peaceful expression. "It feels like we're finally whole." Lena nodded, gently resting her head on Maya's shoulder. "We are. All of us." The mirror never flickered again. And the story that had once been filled with fear ended not with shadows, but with clarity, healing, and the quiet reassurance that no part of them was ever truly lost.